Hello, Nu Skin family. It is so good to be with you. I hope you are excited as I am about this amazing Prysm launch that's happening this year. In fact, this is something that's been going on for now, 23 years, and we're so excited about it here at Nu Skin. You can probably tell that. You've heard so much about it. We're going to dig into some of the details today and discuss the specifics about the engineering, the product marketing, and of course, we're going to have Dr. Joe come in and give you the science. So let's get started. What we're so excited about is the fact that this Prysm IO gives us the ability to have all the good of essentially the biophotonic scanner from before and so much more. And that's the fact that we actually now have something that can fit into the palm of your hand. And this makes it more available to the world. It makes it accessible. It's price conscious so that you're able to get it out into the entire world, not just a few people who are able to actually have it from a financial standpoint, but this is actually going to change the world from a health standpoint because now you have access to world-class patent pending technology that we've never had before. So welcome to Truly Intelligent Wellness. Now, there's a revolution going on in nutritional wellness, right? People know all over the world that they want to be healthier. They want to do better and be more. And a lot of times people talk about this as, if you will, the quality of life. Because in reality, when I came into this industry about 33 years ago, people always talked about lengthening their life. And at Nu Skin, Joe Chang and the entire team here thinks lengthening your life is really important. It's really a big deal. But he says the most important thing is, are you putting life back into your years? So it's not just about the amount of years of your life, but life in your years. And so are you really having a great experience in life? And if you're not, what can you do to change that? And he calls it a biohack, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we do know one thing. The world wants to be healthy, generally speaking. And they're not sure exactly how to go after it. But we do know that the global wellness trends say that this is a $1 trillion business, and it's going to grow significantly over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years. So with that thought in mind, and with Nu Skin being at the forefront of antioxidants, nutrition, and wellness since 1992, it is no surprise to me that Nu Skin is the one who's coming to the table with a revolutionary new device that's going to enable people to understand more about their health and how to improve it. So when you think about why do people want to know more about their health, it's really simple. When you look at the mega trends, it all comes back to number one is they want to know whether their supplements are working. Most people are taking a supplement, but they don't even know if it's working or not. And quite honestly, I've asked a ton of people that question. Hey, are you taking supplements? The answer is yes. How do you know if they're working? Well, I think they're working, and that's the key word, I think. They don't know, but they think. They have no data. And when there's millions of products on the shelf and there's millions of opportunities, in fact, there's more nutritional products here on the earth right now than ever before, but there's more confusion than ever before. Why? Because there's too many options. There's too many things out there saying, look at me, I can help you get better, but they don't give a specific and discernible, measurable difference. And that's where Nu Skin steps in and says, we can. Because people want connected health solutions. They want to be able to have a personalized product that's specific to them. But when you're going on a shelf anywhere around the world, or you're going on to whatever .com you're going on to, how do they know you? And how do they know what your score is? They really don't. So Nu Skin said, we're not just going to talk about giving you a product or sharing a product or selling a product. We're actually going to talk about health. And there's 4 phases of that we really want to focus in on. Because a lot of people have a desire to get better, and some even put a wellness plan in place, but they just don't know if it's working, and they don't understand the elements of it. Number one is generally staying fit, right? You want to be able to have a healthy body mass that specifically gives you a certain level of muscle versus fat, and you also want to have the balance of nutrients in your body, okay? So just staying fit is really, really important. Number 2 is environmental factors like pollution and the ability for people to know that light, even though the sun is wonderful, it generates so much life in our life, it can also have damaging effects if you're not handling it properly. If you're not using sunscreens, for instance, it can have damage effect on your skin and ultimately your entire body. The foods we take into our body every single day have an impact on your life. It slowly either building your foundation of health or taking it away. So how is your nutritional wellness plan working? And lastly, probably the easiest thing you can do for your health is supplements. Because some people won't stop smoking. Some people will not eat more vegetables, even though you tell them to do it, and they know what's better for them. They just somehow don't want to deal with it. And going to work out sometimes doesn't sound so fun. So how do you start the process, as Joe says, to biohack your way into wellness? And one of the simplest way you can do is by taking a supplement every single day. It takes less than a minute to grab a bottle or a packet, pour out the capsules, and actually have some nutrition in your life that's directing you towards a better, healthier life. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this and understanding the benefits of why we want to measure. Now, say hello to Prysm, because this is really a revolutionary AI/ML technology, and that's artificial intelligence, machine learning. And you'll hear some more of this from Yoko Little, who does all of our product marketing, and her team did a fantastic amount of research on all of the data that we received in on the biophotonic scanner of the last 22 years. These are 20 million plus insights that we found out that people who have certain healthy lifestyles or non-healthy lifestyles and how they actually rank when they're measured. So the key is we know how to measure, we know how to show the difference demonstrated, but we wanted to make sure everybody had access to it. So as you've probably heard Ryan say, our CEO, Ryan Napierski, say, he goes, hey, if we can make this affordable, accessible, and somebody that can actually put it in their pocket and share it with a friend or a family member at any given time, let's do it. Otherwise, this is very difficult to share with the world. So that's what we did. We went after it and we figured out a way to bring all this new AI and machine learning into this analysis. And Haley Hellquist will be talking to you about that in the very near future. So I just want to let you know, this is coming to you from the company that is recognized globally as the #1 in beauty and wellness device systems. Okay, #1 by Euromonitor, independently evaluated, and we are #1, literally, in this business. So for us, we're in a situation where we now have the reputation that people expect us to come with this type of innovation with devices and systems, and also the fact that we've come up with this new state-of-the-art, patent-pending machine learning system, and that is the difference demonstrated. And that's why Nu Skin is always at the forefront of our wellness, anti-aging, antioxidants, beauty, skincare. It all works together in beauty and wellness. Now, we've had so many of our team members in the science community tell us how excited they are. And why? Because this unmatched science and credibility that comes from the biophotonic scanner is so important to so many people all over the world. We have 20 years plus of leadership in this field. Plus, as we said, we're the #1 company in this beauty device and wellness systems. And quite frankly, we're the first that came up with this concept of measuring the skin to understand what was happening all the way at our extremities. Notice our hands are the furthest part away from our gut and our duodenum or our small intestine. And that's where science comes in and the technology comes together. And we actually now have more publications and academic partnerships around the world than I've seen in any other group that focuses on this area. So we have the technology, we have the science, we have the credibility, we have the research, we have the years of 20+ million data points to validate what we're doing, and now we're making it accessible to the entire world. So you can tell why we're excited, and you're going to hear from Yoko, from Haley, and of course from Joe Chang, and they're going to tell you why this is so important, how it works, and specifically how you can participate. I'm so excited for you to enjoy this journey. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce somebody who's a quiet hero within the company. She comes out of a CX type of a background in her degree at the university, but she understands what customers want and how to basically take a great idea to the market. And that's Haley Hellquist.
Thanks so much, Steve. I'm really excited now to talk to you a little bit more in depth about how Prysm.io works and what the proprietary technology is that's running inside of the device. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about our innovative engineering and what makes this so unique. We have exclusive technology inside of the Prysm.io device. We have an AI algorithm that's channeling in all this knowledge that we know about Raman technology. We've been scanning with the S3 scanner, our biophotonic scanners, for over the last 20 years. So we have millions and millions of data points that we are now referencing and looking at as we develop this Prysm IO device and using that knowledge that we already have from the research that's been done. This is, again, unique and proprietary to Nu Skin and so fundamental in our development of the Prysm IO. Because of switching to some new technology, which we'll talk about in a second, we're able to make the scans much faster than the S3. We're currently scanning at 15 seconds per scan, so very easy to use, very quick. You don't need to sit for 30 seconds anymore, or even in the past, I think we were scanning at around a minute long in some of our past biophotonic scanners. So again, we're continually innovating and improving on our technology. The next item that makes it so fun and unique, and what I'm excited about as well, is that it actually fits in your pocket. A lot of you, I've heard stories about how you carried around the S3 scanners, and those are big and those are heavy. And so we are truly appreciative, and we admire your work as you've carried those around. But luckily, you do not have to anymore. This now fits inside of your pocket, and we're able to do that because of how we are switching our technologies and using something that's more proprietary and more focused on the software side, which we'll talk about in a moment. Let's talk about what is actually working inside of the device that makes it so unique and what's measuring the carotenoids in your skin. The hyperspectral absorption is our technology that's powering the device, and this is really the hardware of our device. What we like to say is S3 had a lot of complex hardware, but Prysm and had not as complicated software, but Prysm IO has not as complicated hardware, but a little more complicated on the software side, and that's where we bring in all of our Raman technology and knowledge that we have. But here, as we focus on the hardware, hyperspectral absorption is where we use 5 LEDs inside of the Prysm IO device, and we flash them at thousands of times per second throughout the 15-second scan. So we're gathering around 200,000 measurements every 15-second scan. And while we do that, we have 2 photodiodes inside of the device. One is measuring the brightness of the lights on the way up into your skin, and the second photodiode is measuring the brightness of the lights on the way back down. Some of that light, when it flashes up into your skin, gets absorbed inside the skin, and the remaining gets reflected back down and measured by that photodiode. Hence why it's called hyperspectral absorption. We're measuring the difference in that light. Now you'll see on the screen, we have multiple different colors of LEDs that we're using inside the Prysm IO device, and you can see it as well as you scan. But these different colors have different purposes and different meanings. And so a few of those LEDs are looking at carotenoids specifically, while others are looking at biological markers that may interfere with your carotenoid score. And so we want to make sure that those are not taken into account as part of your Prysm score. But like I said, these flash really fast and really rapidly, and they help us get a tiny, tiny measurement from your skin. But we don't stop there. This is only part 1 of the technology. Parts 2 and 3 come from our Raman database and an AI model that we are using and continually improving. And all 3 of these components, hyperspectral absorption, the AI model, and the Raman technology, all come together for our spectral ray technology. And this is what runs in Prysm, spectral ray. And so the Raman technology that we have, the info that we know about Raman comes from our 20 million scans on our S3 device. And so again, we've been scanning for the last 20 years, and we have millions and millions of scans that we've been learning from. We know how different diets and lifestyles and different areas scan on the S3 device, and we've been looking at that data as we've been developing Prysm IO. And so that's been really foundational and fundamental as part of this development process. And really what makes our technology so unique. We have this Raman database and the knowledge of Raman that others don't. And we do factor this into our development for Prysm IO. What we've done is we then take our hyperspectral absorption measurements and what we know about Raman and how it scans from the S3 scanner, and we actually put it through an AI model to create a unique and proprietary algorithm that converts those hyperspectral absorption measurements into a Prysm score. And this is what is proprietary and has a patent currently pending on as well, is this complete spectral ray technology. So as we mentioned before, the hyperspectral absorption is our hardware, but really the complex math and algorithms all come in from our AI algorithm and our knowledge of Raman technology, and that all runs in the software. So very complex, but because we're an IO device, we're able to update this and continually improve that model and improve those calculations and continue to become more and more precise and accurate as we gather more data. And so this is really exciting and innovative as we move forward with Prysm IO. a lot of the times we get questions about how does it compare to the S3? How does the accuracy, do I still see improvements from our SES products or Prysm certified products? And the answer is yes. We've done a very preliminary study using about 50 participants. We had them each take LifePak and measure them both on the S3 and the Prysm IO device at weeks 4, 8, and 12. And what you can see on this graph is that at each time point when we measured, both the S3 score and the Prysm IO score increased. But you'll notice they didn't increase at the exact same rate, right? Sometimes maybe it increased a little bit more on S3 and then the next week increased a little bit more on the Prysm IO, but the trend is the same. And this shows that we are still measuring carotenoids just as we did with the S3. We are measuring them with the Prysm IO device. And so when it comes to your S3 and your Prysm IO scores, they may not be exactly the same, but they will continue to show an increase as you take our certified supplements, that the score is shown to increase. And so again, using that S3 and that biophotonic Raman technology that we've had from over the years, we're able to get this technology into a smaller form factor and still have the same results and the same improvements from taking supplements. One thing we want to make sure that we emphasize a lot with Prysm IO is we want this experience to be so simple. We want it to be intuitive and just so easy to go and share. Hopefully you had a chance to come to the Prysm IO product experience while we were in Greece. But even from that event, you could just see the energy and excitement just from these preliminary units we had there. Everyone wanted to take pictures and share their score. It's just such an easy way to create a conversation. And it's already been fun to see all the social posts going up about the device, and it just looks really cool. And everyone, when they see it, goes, wait, what is that? I want to score on it. What is my score? And so this is the model we really want to push and enforce with this device is, first, get to know your score. What is your score? Where are you on there? But then second, we don't just stop there and say, oh, that was your score. Good luck. Good for you to know. No, we take it to the next step and we say, actually, we have a portfolio of solutions and different products that you can use to help improve your score. And that's where we can then start to recommend products and get people on subscription, because this isn't a one-time solution. This is a journey, a process. You need to be consistent with your health goals and eating right and taking supplements. And so we have a variety of solutions that people can utilize to go and increase their score. And then lastly, while we're focusing on subscription and our products, this will help to create and promote customer retention and loyalty. Again, we have multiple solutions, and this is a process, and it's not just a one-time purchase, right? You want to maintain that healthy lifestyle and journey and continue to increase your score or stay at a high Prysm score. So with that, hopefully you've had a chance, and this makes sense with the technology that we've walked through. Very unique opportunity, and we are so impressed with our teams of scientists and engineers who have all put this together to make such a unique and innovative product. I'm now going to turn the time over to Yoko Little, who is our Global Vice President over Marketing, and she will walk us through some of the data that we've been seeing from these S3 scores and how it's been informing our strategy with Prysm IO and with future products to come.
Thank you, Haley, for your kind introduction. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk a little more also about the product side of things. Now, this chart here this chart comes from a study that was published in the Lancet journal, just came out in August of 2024, so it's fairly recent. It's really significant because it really took a good look at the global population and mapped out the nutrient deficiencies that are happening throughout the world. And as you can see, the type of nutrient deficiencies that you see, depending on the type of nutrients, are actually quite different. So our R&D team is really taking notes of these types of insights to take a look at how we can continue to optimize our LifePak portfolio globally based on some of the regional support and additional nutrients needs in mind. And as you can see, there's a number of nutrients that are mapped out here. And depending on, not only in the region, but there are diverse differences in the gaps between gender, between the ages. So a lot of these great input is now incorporated into the new version of nutritional supplements that we're actually developing and rolling out very soon. So that's one of the fun and exciting, updates that you'll see along with the Prysm IO introduction. And just here's an example of how that looks like for the United States. You can see as compared to the optimum nutrition status, you can see vitamin E, iodines, those are actually much lower as compared to the recommended dosage. When you compare also going all the way down to the bottom, the niacin, selenium, those nutrients are actually much closer to the optimum level. So all these insights are now taken into consideration to create a new generation of supplements, new generation of life pack that meets the nutritional needs both for the regional, and then we'll be expanding into different gender, age groups, and so forth. Here's just one more example looking at the Latin America. And as you can see how it's very different when you look even between the North America and the South America, Latin America. The nutrient deficiency mapping looks very different. Again, this is just another point to show that regional approaches is much needed, in addition to, again, looking at the age-specific nutrition needs, gender-specific nutrition needs, and so forth. So while that's going on, we wanted to also talk a little bit about, how best to take a look at the score, the Prysm score, and continue to figure out how we can improve the Prysm score. So your score is really based on a number of different factors. What impacts your score could be based on your BMI, your supplementation, nutrition, how much servings of fruits and vegetables you're taking. There are a number of things that could impact your overall health status as well as your score. So with that in mind, we have this wealth of information and data over the past, actually over 22 years, actually 2002 to 2024. And we have 21 million data points that we have gathered globally. And taking a look at, the mapping of that data, you can see 20% approximately go into the low score, low to medium 28%, 23% in the moderate area. So that's where majority of the population really falls in. But what's interesting is, taking even a smaller segment of the demographic. Let's take a look at, people who have never taken LifePak, have very low servings of fruits and vegetables that they're taking daily, high BMI, and also smoking. So when you look at that particular segment, you can see the drastic change with the low score and the low to moderate score. Now, taking a little more look at this mapping, what if we eliminate the smoking, from this group? So still no supplement, low fruit and vegetable, high BMI, but just removing the smoking, you see a meaningful improvement in the overall score. When you add BMI, body mass index, being normal, so normal to healthy weight, again, the score moves up. And as you add more fruits and vegetables to 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily, you'll see more meaningful improvement. And then what's really interesting and exciting is adding LifePak once daily or twice daily LifePak, you'll see more movement towards the healthier state or more movement towards the healthier nutrition state that you see on this chart. So this was really, interesting and meaningful data that we are learning from to incorporate into the Prysm technology and the Prysm science. Again, the way to improve your wellness and the nutrition status is by avoiding the oxidization, boost your nutrition, optimize your fitness level, and then be able to start, taking a good supplementation that can give you a meaningful lift in your nutrition status. So those are the 3 or 4 areas that you could take a look at. It was interesting during the recent global, Team Elite, there were a lot of people who scored very high, high to even extra high. And when you're working with a number of top leaders who have been taking these supplements for many years, that's really typical, green and blue, maybe even some purple. So that was really good to see those great scores, coming from the Team Elites and being able to listen to their stories about how they really watch out for their health and what type of supplements they're taking. But the reality is majority of the population really go more towards, low to medium in the moderate, state. So this really has the ability and the power to help raise awareness and be able to help, we'll be able to now help people through the journey of making good choices to improve their overall nutrition status and their overall wellness. So super excited about that. And to really wrap up, this section and session today, we'd like to really introduce, Dr. Joe Cheng. He's the #1 New York Times bestseller author of The Aging Myth. He has studied antioxidant science over the past decades, and he'll be able to really tell you what Prysm IO means to each and every one of us. So, Joe.
Hi, everybody. As you have heard from many of my colleagues here about this new development that we have in the device called the Prysm IO, we have explained and described a lot of things behind how we developed this particular device. Artificial intelligence, that's what we've been using as an algorithm to drive the Prysm IO. That actually requires data. Remember, all of us were born with a brain, right? So how come we had to go to school to learn? Because we should be instantly smart, but we are not. We were sent to school. Why? To get data, to really sort of input into our brain the amount of information so that we can become intelligent. A computer, an artificial intelligence algorithm, technically speaking, is no different than our brain. And that is, it requires training. And that training can only come from the fact that we can input the relevant data. In this instance, that Raman database that we've been talking about is actually the information we have been feeding into Prysm IO. That's a unique piece. Think about it, all right? The light technology in and of itself is already unique. But what is equally important is this database. And that's what differentiates Prysm IO insofar as it being unique device, because you may find some similar like technology out there in the world, but it's really sort of not identical to what we can achieve and what we can accomplish because of the Raman database. It's a connection of those two, right? The engineering together with the database that we have collected over the last 20 years or so, that the combination of it, the connection of those two things together, that's what makes Prysm so uniquely differentiated. All right, so I'm hoping that when you listen to Yoko and Haley and Steve and so on, that you don't walk away with the impression that Prysm IO is just a sort of a device, right? It's just a new device. It has a lot of potential going forward. At this point in time, it is measuring the antioxidants and what we've been able to do just on that single factor alone, right? We have been able to translate that. In other words, we have been able to take that antioxidant information because of the Raman database, be able to conclude it's actually a biomarker of nutritional health. That's a very significant breakthrough because frankly, it took us more than 20 years to educate everybody on the importance of antioxidant. Now, we don't have to do that, which brings me to the point that really think about Prysm as an opportunity platform. Over the last 40 years, for example, and you can see, I call these the smooth stones that exist in Nu Skin, the 5 smooth stones of opportunity, if you will. And the reason I use that analogy is because in the Old Testament, you would imagine David, when he slew Goliath, he did it with 1 smooth stone, right? We all remember that story. However, what you don't remember is the fact that in his pouch, he had another 4 stones. And the reason for that, and that you have to read the Old Testament again, was because David recognized that Goliath had 4 other brothers, equally strong, equally big. And he has to be prepared. He had to be prepared to have enough ammunition, if you will, to be able to fight against those four brothers in case he has to. Those are called the 5 smooth stones that David collected from a brook. In our case, back 40 years ago, the first smooth stone that we collected and we employed was really looking at everything that we have done in New Skin. Back when Sandy, Steve Lund, and Blake Roney, when it came together, if you look at all the things that are being done, it came down and it converged into one simple theme. And that is all of the good, none of the bad. That's what differentiated New Skin. That was the first smooth stone of opportunity for everybody in New Skin. A couple of years later, 3 or 4 years later, there was another second smooth stone that was shot out. And that is the science-based products that we are launching from New Skin. And how that came about was somewhat personal to me, because that's when Pharmanex was acquired by New Skin back in 1998. And that's what created the science-based smooth stone. The theme, the opportunity, it raised New Skin to another level of innovation, right? And that drove New Skin for quite a few years. And again, a few more years later, we came up with what? And obviously, this is the thing that is connected to Prysm. And that was the biophotonic scanner. The first one we brought out was around 2003. And every couple of years, we iterated and we improved that biophotonic scanner, which for today, as of today, we have what we call the S3 version, and that is much smaller, much quicker. But nonetheless, all 3 versions of the biophotonic scanner measures and gives out, and the claim we put on it was it measures the antioxidant status in the body. In and of itself, that was already good enough to be a very successful third smooth stone that we launched from New Skin. And then quickly on, we follow up with what we call the H-Log smooth stone, right? That drove another spurt of growth in New Skin for roughly about 10 years or so. And it literally sort of really, I think, cumulatively regenerated both from the skincare side and from the Pharmanex nutritional side, all these H-Log products. They actually total about slightly over $10 billion of revenue over the last 10 years. So it was a wonderful opportunity for all of you. And that is wonderful. And then finally, not finally, but for now, the 5th smooth stone was the launch of the devices. You already have heard that we are now the #1 beauty device systems company, not just in our world of direct selling, but in the whole beauty space as well. So those are the 5 smooth stones that we have. I think it has been over the last 4 years, it drew and drove the growth of New Skin during ever since its foundation or founding back in 1984, I believe. Okay? Now we are at a point now. We're going to do better than David. And that is, we're going to launch the 6th smooth stone. And this is Prysm. Okay? And Prysm is very much related to this whole concept, what I would call biohacking. Some of you may have heard of the term, and some of you may think some of you would sort of think that, wait a minute, biohacking may be a negative connotations associated with it. Well, it really isn't, because in science, what it means really is to be able to understand the body well and accurately based on data. That's the transformation with Prysm. What you heard from Haley, right? How the engineering works and so on. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because that is also important, because what Haley has been telling you is really the fact that Prysm is going to have a lot of potential, which we are not discussing right now because we haven't explored them yet, but it has a potential. And that is why, Yoko shared with you all that data once again. It's the opportunity. It's huge, not just in a particular region of the world, in every region of the world, that we are now able, with the help of the Prysm, we'll be able to help people to sort of, understand their nutritional health status. That's what we mean. And overall, in the future, we'll go to other areas of the body that we can help and be able to sort of monitor and help you understand skin health, even as well as what we can do on the nutrition side. So think about it along those lines, and remember, the Prysm is not just an incremental improvement over the current scanner. It is important. It is related. We could not develop and we could not make the current claim with the Prysm without the biophotonic scanner that we have. All right? That Raman database is absolutely critical. And I think it's going to be a big, huge and high barrier to entry because it took us 20 years to generate that. All right? So for a competitor, for example, to be able to duplicate what we're doing with the Prysm, they will have to conduct another 20 years of work to be able to generate a correlation between lifestyle factors and the antioxidant value that you get from a person. So, and I'm hoping that what I'm telling you is the fact that Prysm is more than just an incremental improvement. It's really a huge leap forward into how you can really answer the question, how do you know, about your nutritional health? You can right now.